Bonnie Tyler's husband breaking his silence after her tragic death has become the focal point of the public mourning process, but the specific details surrounding her final moments in that Portuguese hospital remain heavily guarded. Robert Sullivan, who was by her side for more than 5 decades, is now facing the impossible task of managing the grief of millions while protecting the deeply personal reality of her sudden passing. The family's official statement confirmed the 75-year-old died unexpectedly as a result of the illness she was being treated for, but what Sullivan has actually communicated to the public since that announcement is far more restrained than the widespread media frenzy demands. The phrase "speaking up" in the context of Robert Sullivan requires immediate clarification. He has not held a press conference, granted a televised interview, or provided a detailed emotional tribute to the press. In the immediate aftermath of the singer's death, Sullivan, along with her core management team, issued a brief but devastating statement posted to her official website, asking for privacy to deal with the tragedy. For a man who spent the vast majority of his life operating completely out of the paparazzi spotlight, this strict request for space is his primary form of public communication. The decision to release a single, unified statement rather than a series of personal reflections speaks volumes about the couple's fundamental approach to their marriage. They kept their life fiercely private in life, and in death, Sullivan is aggressively enforcing those exact same boundaries. To understand the sheer weight of the silence Sullivan is protecting, you have to look at the horrific medical timeline leading up to her death. In May, Bonnie Tyler underwent emergency intestinal surgery in Portugal. The procedure was so complex and her condition so unstable that medical professionals were forced to place her into an induced coma. For weeks, Sullivan sat by her bedside in the intensive care unit, completely cut off from the outside world, waiting to see if his wife would ever wake up. Last month, the family provided a fleeting update that she had been brought out of the coma but remained very unwell. The fact that her death still came as an unexpected shock to the public, despite that grave medical warning, highlights how rapidly and silently her condition deteriorated behind those closed hospital doors. However, one detail quickly caught everyone's attention regarding the bizarre contrast between Tyler's physical decline and her booming career. While Sullivan was keeping a vigil at her hospital bed, her 1983 masterpiece Total Eclipse of the Heart officially surpassed 1 billion streams on Spotify. Tyler herself had commented on this massive milestone shortly before her health crisis, nodding with her trademark wit that with 8.3 billion people on the planet, reaching 1 billion streams was an astonishing thought. Yet, she had also openly admitted that the royalties from that streaming success amounted to just about nothing. It is a cruel irony that Sullivan must now navigate. His wife's voice was generating record-breaking digital traffic for corporate platforms while she was fighting a losing physical battle in a sterile hospital room. That physical battle was actually the second time a severe medical trauma threatened to take her away. The gravelly, raspy voice that made her a global icon was the result of a catastrophic medical event in her youth. Early in her career, surgery to remove nodules on her vocal cords resulted in the permanent paralysis of one of her cords. She was told she might never sing again. She fought her way back from that devastating diagnosis, relearning how to speak and sing to build a multi-million-dollar career. Sullivan, who has been with her since before her massive 1980s breakthrough, witnessed that first miraculous recovery. Watching her ultimately succumb to a different, unrelated medical emergency in a Portuguese hospital represents a heartbreaking end to a lifetime of physical resilience. The foundation of Sullivan and Tyler's marriage was built entirely outside the chaotic machinery of the music industry. They married in 1991, long after the peak of her Total Eclipse superstardom, and deliberately chose a life of extreme geographic distance from Hollywood and London. They relocated to a sprawling 14th-century mansion in the Albufeira region of Portugal. Sullivan, a property developer, built a quiet sanctuary where Tyler could walk her dogs, live an ordinary life, and escape the relentless pressures of the industry. They also made the highly personal decision not to have children, a choice Tyler previously explained was due to the demanding, transient nature of her touring schedule. Because of this, their bond was incredibly insular. They were each other's absolute primary focus for over 3 decades of marriage. Sullivan was also her anchor during her highly publicized professional risks, such as representing the United Kingdom at the Eurovision Song Contest in 2013 at the age of 62, and standing beside her when she was made an MBE for her services to music in 2023. Through every career pivot and every international tour, he remained the constant, invisible force allowing her to maintain her stamina. The true tragedy of Robert Sullivan speaking up is not what he is saying to the media, but the devastating reality of what he is no longer able to say to his wife. The exact clinical details of her intestinal failure remain completely confidential, hidden behind the family's legal and personal plea for privacy. Authorities have not confirmed specific internal medical reports, and according to current reports, they will not be released. Sullivan's public stance is a protective wall, shielding the final, painful hours of a woman who spent her life turning physical flaws into global anthems. When a husband who fiercely guarded his wife's privacy for half a century is finally forced to make a public statement about her death, does the world truly have a right to hear anything more than his desperate request to be left alone?